Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to one more episode of Rendezvous with Anza at CxO Global TV. We have a very special guest today. He's a member, Habib Paracha. He is not just the pride of CxO Global Forum but also pride of Pakistan. He is one of the top producers from Pakistan who's done work for Hollywood. He is also a serial entrepreneur. And we would like to speak to him more and find out about his own personal journey. Habib, how's it going?
Good, thank you. Glad to be here.
Glad to be here. Habib, without further ado, I know anyone who can just Google your name has this huge profile that comes, and mashallah, you've done so well for yourself. What has your personal journey been like? Like, where did you go to school? I know you studied something completely different, but are doing something completely different.
Right. So I started in Hyderabad actually at Hyderabad Public School.
Oh, wow.
I ended up at Foundation in Hyderabad. In 1988, I moved to Karachi with my family. Ended up in St. Michael, then Karachi Grammar School, and that was the final school I got my O levels and A levels from.
Okay.
Subsequently, ended up in the United States for college at Boston University. Initially started out studying computer science, then. Didn't like it at all.
Really?
I didn't like being in the labs till 4 in the morning and getting out and being and just seeing everything closed and snowed in. So I swapped over to finance and operations management, and that I really enjoyed. So ended up getting a degree from there, and then coming back to Pakistan. Got involved initially with a ISP. Internet service provider, ran that, did not work out because it was just not the right time. I mean, it was the right time always, but it just didn't make sense because there was too much competition. Sold out of that, closed it up as a chapter in my life, and then got involved with other businesses.
So how does a finance guy end up going to IT and then end up becoming a businessman at the end of the day, an entrepreneur?
Well, I come from a business family to begin with, right? So for me, it was just trying to figure out where I fit and what I am going to see myself doing in terms of what I enjoy and what I can see myself doing for the rest of my life. So
how much do you think your failures have contributed to your success?
Quite a lot, actually, because I think you don't learn until you fail. And for me specifically, if there's something I want to try and I have the opportunity to try it, I'll do it. Whether I like it, don't like it, of course there's some inclination towards it, but that inclination can also be misplaced. Because you maybe see someone doing something and think, oh, that looks cool, or that looks like a good career path, and you try it and it's just not for you. So you won't know till you try it, and sometimes you'll fail and sometimes you'll succeed, and sometimes you'll simply just get bored of it and move on. So
yeah. So whenever someone's talking about you, and I know you refer to yourself as a serial entrepreneur as well, what exactly is a serial entrepreneur?
Okay, so I think the right way to see it would be that someone who, I like to set up companies, I like to set up businesses, and then once they're kind of incubated to that stage where they're more mature, I prefer to just move on to the next thing because I think that my time is not as productively utilized at the original thing.
But some people would perceive that as a lack of commitment to one cause, right?
Not really, because I believe in specialization. So
okay.
I know that my best value that I add to a particular project is by overall supervising, getting it off the ground, and then letting the professionals who are going to be completely hands-on take over. So, for me, there was no way that I would be able to run 17, 18 companies like I do in different ways. I mean, I'm not like a CEO of all of them, but I'm involved with 17 or 18 different. There's no way that I would be able to process that much data or be able to, deal with so many unless I was doing this strategy. And honestly, if you look at some of the biggest CEOs globally, that's kind of what they do. They don't get into micromanaging. They deal more with policy and trajectories of the companies, and they step in when there's a need, and then they step back out.
Right. So Habib, what are some of the projects that you've been involved with, and which ones are close to your heart?
So I'm not going to talk about the legacy family businesses because those are things that some of them have grown, but I don't want to unnecessarily take credit for those.
But let me just add here that Habib's family happens to be one of the families in Pakistan that have really contributed to the cause of Pakistan, to the economy of Pakistan. And your grandfather is the one who signed a blank check for Pakistan.
Yes, that's correct. Just very proud of the legacy, honestly, and grateful to be born into the family, and no contribution of mine, but I mean,
So let's talk about your contributions then.
Well, I've been doing a couple of things. One is movies, of course, as you know. Besides that, I've been involved with a couple of startups in Pakistan as well as in the US. Some of them have failed also, of course, along the way, in both places. I did initially a emojis app way back in the day called Naughtycons. But that unfortunately didn't work out. I do feel that potentially there is a possibility to bring it back around, because I think people nowadays with WhatsApp
and Snapchat and that's
so
that generation.
Potentially I have the IP for that still, like the original designs, which have not been shared with anyone as such. So let's see, I may do that. But besides that, I did movies. I got involved with an agricultural startup which has done really well in the US. I ended up as a strategic advisor to the board for a company called Car Saver, which is an exclusive partnership with Walmart to put up a auto dealership in each one of their super centers in the United States.
Yeah.
So there's 4,000 super centers. They've rolled out to about 250 or plus super centers already. And once it's done scaling, it's going to be the largest auto dealership in the world.
Car Saver.
Car Saver.
Okay, great.
And,
Habib, what about your degree in finance? Did you end up utilizing that somewhere in terms of your
I think finance is one of those things you end up utilizing every day in everything.
Oh, yes.
So, I got to learn a bit about accounting, I got to learn about marketing, those are all different operation management. So, all of these things are basic finance, of course, but it taught me how to manage in any kind of environment, personally as well as professionally. And whenever anyone asks me, hey, what should I study? I always tell them, well, if you're wanting a well-rounded education, go with something like finance.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, so they say that there's no business like show business, right? And what exactly does production entail? And a lot of people, especially in Pakistan now, want to invest into movies. Do you think this is the right time?
Definitely, I think, I'll answer the second part first. Definitely, I think it's the right time because Pakistan has a very big population and a young population, and entertainment is very much lacking, for us locally, in terms of local entertainment. But of course, it needs to connect with the audience, and I think that's where, sadly, we are not being able to perform. And I think one of the main reasons our industry did not pick up the way it should have is because the content being made was really not connecting with the audience. An Indian movie comes out and the cinemas are full, but a Pakistani movie would come out and it will simply not pull in that many people over like the same duration. So as far as being what it entails in being a producer, it depends. I mean, there are producers who are very hands-on, and then there are those who just may take a particular aspect of the project and just deal with that.
Yeah.
Me, by virtue of the fact that I prefer more to macro than micromanage. I like to look at the overall picture and understand every single dynamic of it, so that I'm able to make better decisions on a macro level.
So like for people who are willing to or want to invest in it, what's the ROI like? So should people invest in other businesses, or this would be a fruitful business?
It depends, of course, who you partner with, number one, and what their business model is as well. Because generally speaking, investor can expect a return of 20% on their money, plus a certain percentage participation in the profits. It's not exactly correct. I mean, it varies project to project, but generally, a 20% return over say 18 months from.
That's not bad at
Not
all.
bad.
That's
I mean,
not bad at
yeah,
all. Yeah.
I mean, especially now with the interest rates having gone down
Yeah.
globally
Mhm.
and in Pakistan as well, I think it's a fair return. There is an element of risk, of course, like any business, and that's why it matters that what the credibility of the producers is, what the who the director is, what the story is. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
And
Sorry, I was just going to add to it, Habib. You've done some amazing work. I mean, I've seen some of your productions as well. What the kind of work that you've done with Hollywood, you've gotten internationally a lot of acclaim internationally, and I think there's the Air Force Medal from the United States of America as well for your latest movie, The Last Full Measure. How is the work ethic different there in terms of just like day to day?
so look, I mean, there's good people and bad people everywhere. I think it's a universal trait, and you have to go through the, you have to go through the different types of people to find like those that are to your liking in terms of work ethic and professionalism. Definitely, the one difference I would make is that in the United States, at least, the level of education for most who are involved, as well as the access to information, transparency, that helps. In Pakistan, we're still progressing towards that. We're not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier to track in the United States because they have different websites that, like for example, IMDb, which
Yeah.
has like all the listings of who's done what and in what capacity. So we don't have that here. So in terms of work ethic, I think in Pakistan we have a ways to go, but that doesn't mean that everyone in the industry is not like that. There are people who are very professional and very meticulous, but one has to be connected to them. It's hard to find them simply because there's no way to know who's what and who's professional and who's not.
Absolutely. Beep, you also mentioned, web portals like IMDb, and that, makes me wonder, a lot of with each passing day, technology is taking over our lives, and it is really what's going to be, I'm not going to say it's superimposed, but we have to go parallel with it, and anyone that slows down is obviously not going to become a significant contributor to the future. I know you have invested in technology and connecting technologies and IoT as well, I believe some aspects of it. The Prime Minister just announced special technology zones, and I saw you were there at the inauguration as well. What would your comment be, and what would your expectations be from these special technology zones?
Sure. I think it's a really good initiative. I actually know the head of the task force there as well. He's a good gentleman and some of the members of his team. And I think they have the right initiative in mind to uplift the people in Pakistan, because as an entrepreneur and a businessman and having done enough in Pakistan, I feel one of the major hurdles we have is that the access to getting things started in a timely manner is limited. And if I'm saying that with so many companies and fairly large business background in Pakistan, I just wonder how the average Pakistani deals with it. So this initiative, which is supposed to give a one-window solution, and it's supposed to take care of some of the other issues we have in our society, such as corruption, especially in terms of getting companies registered and just the delays and bottlenecks. I think this is a good step in that way. Will they be able to do that or not? Of course, that remains to be seen. So I don't want to jump the gun and say that it'll be perfect, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. What I feel they do need to add to it is a little bit more clarity, because I think it's still in process, in terms of what are they offering in these spaces. And one of my personal recommendations to them has been that please don't give out the land, don't sell out the land until someone is ready to actually commit and put up something. because often what happens, I was going to say a word and not do it
Yeah.
accidentally. Often what happens is that when a new zone is announced, people simply go out, buy the land, and sit on it.
Mm-hmm.
And they think of that as an investment rather than actually going and putting up something on that land. The problem with that is that drives land prices up. And,
Absolutely, yeah.
and genuine people who want to put up are priced out. So I've had that happen to myself as well in different industries where, I wanted to put up a particular factory for biscuits and confectionery and stuff because I'm also involved with the sugar mill.
Yeah.
And when I found out the price of land in Karachi in the site areas or like the commercial, the industrial areas, the business model simply doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah.
I'm paying more for the land than I would for the factory.
Oh wow.
It's absurd.
Yeah.
And they're empty parcels of land.
So we need to work on making this environment more conducive to new businesses and them being set up.
Absolutely.
Right. Absolutely. Habib, we know that the pandemic has impacted a lot of businesses. Where there has been a catastrophe, that there's also been an opportunity to learn. The businesses that you're involved with, how did the pandemic affect you, and has there been a learning curve?
Definitely been a learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
It has affected me quite a bit personally. Well, for one thing, I used to travel a lot for work, and obviously I mix in with that pleasure. This last year, I did not get to travel at all from March through I think the end of August. I didn't even leave my home for those many months, and we maintained a pretty strict protocol lockdown, and socially distanced from everyone, friends, family, everyone. Business-wise, it had an impact, especially on my film and business, because I simply wasn't able to travel, and a lot of things we had planned, we had to do remotely, and our IP in this particular case is, is film, which I simply did not want to be transmitted to me for the fear that in case it gets pirated or something like that, I'd be liable. And my last film actually, which was with Bruce Willis, called Hard Kill, we ended up doing a streaming only premiere for it, because normally it would be a theatrical release.
Yeah.
And given the circumstances, there were no theaters open, so we had to do that. So that's what the learning curve of it was, and it's had other setbacks, some financial setbacks, and haven't recovered all of it, of course. I think it'll take a year or two to do that, but it's definitely been, there's nothing I can do.
But in all my conversations with you, I've always found that despite of the pandemic, you are someone that's been positive throughout. Because maybe just an observation, you've been using this time to really channelize your energies and, create a synergy with like-minded individuals.
Yes, that, and also I used the time to actually set up a couple of new companies in Pakistan. So since I was locked in, I used a lot of that time on, quite frankly, YouTube, seeing different type of self-help and learning documentaries and nature programs. And I got fed up of Netflix, honestly, because making movies anyway, it just seems like work, and so it's not as entertaining for me.
Right.
And then yes, I started I got involved with a couple of startups. One is a startup by the name of ParkPay, which is a B2B and B2C billing aggregator and presentment company. We're in process of doing a minimum viable product right now, and we should be probably ready to take it to customers and banks by sometime like mid-March.
Yeah. So just in a couple of lines, how's ParkPay any different than the other payment gateways that are available? Or I know one obvious point that you noted was that it's a billing aggregator.
Right. So that's primarily the difference, that whereas the wallets, and I'm also involved as an investor in a company called SadaPay, which is it's a new wallet, e-wallet bank, the new ones. The difference is that most of these wallets, they focus primarily on the user in terms of customer acquisition, whereas the billing aggregator focuses primarily on the
ease of payments.
Correct. So we are the necessary requirement of all these wallets because as a specialization, you can do one or the other. It's not easy to do both simultaneously, and there's a cost to it.
Sure.
So we are the solution for all of them in terms of providing their customers with people or businesses that they can pay out to.
Okay.
So we would be integrated with all the banks. We would be integrated with all these new e-wallets, with these mobile wallets, whatever, and and make a solution available so that people can make payments.
That's brilliant. Habib, quickly going to touch upon how important do you think forums like CxO Global are in Pakistan now? Because you heard about the kind of work that we do, and I think people like you need to become a part of the knowledge economy.
I think it's a great initiative, first and foremost, especially because what I said earlier, that it's really difficult to connect to like-minded professionals, and in that perspective, an organization like this is very helpful and useful. Most C-level executives are very busy. They don't have time for networking events, and a lot of networking events, I'm sorry, are quite useless. The filtering of people is not that good, and anyone and everyone kind of makes their way in. So from that perspective, I think really looking at some of the people who are already on your member list, I felt that this is a far better program, and I think it would lead to far more meaningful conversations with people and in connections. And if I'm thinking it this way, I'm sure that others would see it the same way, and I think that also helps because it kind of filters out the BS. So
Habib, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
And we hope and pray that your new ventures are a success.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.